Welcome to my spare bedroom again. And it is still straightened up very nicely. But I brought you back here today to show you this is going to be kind of like a show and tell. A friend of mine whose channel I do watch and who actually got me started in doing my own channel here, she requested or asked me if I would show some of the quilts that I've done. So that's what I'm going to do today. I have a few things left here at home that we use, and I have a few quilt tops that I finished that I still need to quilt, bind, and get together. But I kind of burned out on quilting about 2 winters ago. I think I mentioned that in a previous film where I was doing quilt after quilt that I was gifting for Christmas, and I just kind of burned out on rushing to get everything done in time. So I've taken a little break from quilting, but I've dug out all the quilt tops that I've got. I've dug out the quilts that I finished that we use around the house here, and I'm going to show you my little variety. This first one is a trip around the world quilt, and this was probably the last full-size quilt that I finished up. So it's about 2 years old now, and I need to finish it. I need to, quilt it and then bind it, and then it will be ready to use. This next one is a panel piece of a fall scene, and I added the borders around it. It's going to be a lap throw. This one is quite a square block. I didn't think it was going to turn out to be so square, and I may add another border onto it as well to make it a little bit bigger. But it was made from a jelly roll pack. This next one is a panel piece. This is a panel, and I loved the design. It has a whole bunch of, well, here, maybe I can move you closer. I loved this design because I'm a retired phone company, so it had phones on it, stereo, old phonographs, fans, typewriters, cash registers, old sewing machines. I liked the design, and so I figured, okay, I'll make a throw out of that. And of course I had to make one for Christmas for me. I've done others. So this is a wintry scene. What better way to start a show and tell of the quilts that I've made than with the very first quilt that I made. And I made this in a class at a local fabric store, and it was a log cabin class, my very first quilt class, my very first sewing class at that fabric store, and I've taken many there since. That was over 20 years ago, actually. So this quilt is over 20 years. And I love blues and greens, so that's what I had to do, is make a blue and green. I don't know if you can tell the green very well, but it's shades of greens and shades of blues. So I loved it at the time. It's okay now. It does not get used very much because it is, like I say, it's over 20 years old, and I kind of keep it stashed away in the closet. It's kind of like my own personal souvenir. A souvenir of my quilting days. And this next one I did at another local quilt shop that is no longer in business. That seems to be the way they go, actually, after a while. And it shows the different quilt patterns. I don't even know if I can name them anymore, but I enjoyed working on it. Each block is a different quilt style, and a couple of them are favorites of mine. Some of them were so hard, but I really liked them, and I don't know if I could do a full quilt of them at all, but I enjoyed working on this quilt and putting it together. Oh, and I meant to show you the binding or the backing on that other quilt, but believe it or not, it was all blue. The backing on this quilt is dark brown floral. This is another quilt that I made out of scraps at one of the local quilt shops. I would go there to the quilt shop and spend an afternoon sewing with the shop owner, keep her company, and she had tons of scrap material. This quilt was put together using some of those scraps. So I enjoyed doing it, putting it together. I think it turned out okay. And there's the backing. It's a light green floral. And this one was one of my favorites. It is my runner-up, actually. For a long time, it was the most favorite. I loved the color combinations. I loved the design. The teacher of the class was wonderful. She was excellent, and I did intend to take another class from her, but then she moved on. So I haven't taken another trip class since then. But this was interesting to make, because you know they're all little 1-inch blocks here on the main part of the quilt. It's all just 1-inch squares put together. So yes, it took time, and that's the backing to it. But now my most favorite, and I'm going to move you back to a different angle here, is another log cabin quilt. It was one that I did at a local quilt store, just working away on my own. And I loved it's Civil War type material, the colors I love. The backing is a lighter color. But it does actually, it's bigger than this bed calls for. It's more like a king-size quilt, but I make it do back here on this queen. I make it fit on this queen because our bed sits high off of the floor, and so this quilt wasn't long enough to fit all the way around. I could have added a bed skirt to it, but it would have looked a little bit awkward in some places, so I just decided to use the quilt here, and I'm going to, one of these days, make another quilt to go on our bedroom bed, too. That's it for show and tell from here today. I hope you enjoyed it a little bit. I haven't done a show and tell like that in many years. When I think that this is what I have left of the quilting that I did do quite a bit more. But I'm hoping that the people that I gave my quilts to, that I made for them, are enjoying them as I intended them to do, you know. But that's about it for now. I hope you're enjoying your day today. Make it a good one. Have fun. And I'll be talking to you real soon. On my favorite quilt, I don't know if you could really see the different colors and patterns and that, so I thought I'd do a close-up. I know the light squares or blocks and that don't have a lot of color variation to it, but it does go from light to medium and then a darker patterned material. But I just really liked this pattern a lot, and it looks very dramatic in person, let me tell you. Okay, that's about it again.